Ireland has gone from this
That is the final whistle as Wales leap in joy
to this.
The All Blacks. And they have beaten the All Blacks. It's a third success.
Thanks to new coaching and player development, Irish rugby sits among the best in the world. However, winning a World Cup is where Ireland always fails. Under the leadership of Johnny Sexton, it almost became a reality. But an ageing team made it nearly impossible. Now there is a new kid in town. A man willing to face every challenge head on. But who is Caelan Doris? And why is he rugby's next best thing? Surprisingly, Caelan Doris is just 26 years old. He was born in Laken, County May on April 2nd, 1998. Rugby also surrounded him from a very young age. In fact, Doris's father, Chris, also played a bit of rugby himself. This led to a spark within the young Caelan, and by the age of 12, he was off to boarding school. Already influenced by his father, Caelan automatically stood out.
Like the way he could carry a ball, and different to rugby, he could actually carry it without anyone getting to touch him.
Much like his father, he attended the famous Blackrock College. Now, Blackrock was famous for delivering some of Ireland's great rugby players. Moreover, it was directly under the watchful eye of the Leinster Rugby Club, the pride of Irish rugby. Just as his father had done before, Doris excelled, and at the age of 16 he was already part of the side to win the Leinster Schools Rugby Senior Team Cup. At this time, Doris was still a junior, but great things were about to come. The following year saw Caelan become a senior, and by his final year of high school, he was captaining one of the most prestigious school sides in Ireland. Naturally, it opened many doors for the young star. By the time he moved to the University of Dublin, Caelan was already on the Irish and Leinster radars. Just a year into college, and he got a call-up to represent the Irish under-20 side. He quickly made an impression and was named as Irish under-20 captain.
Were you worried when you saw the missed call?
A little bit, yeah. I was hoping it wasn't to do with selection, but thankfully it wasn't, so.
A simple look back at this journey reveals just how he was groomed for the modern style of rugby. Nonetheless, Doris made every opportunity count.
South Africa's number 8 doing his bit, but this is Doris once more on the rampage. Is Caelan Doris. He gets the offload. It's Sylvester who will go in under the stick.
But off the field, the future Irish captain didn't slouch either. While attending the University of Dublin, he also completed a degree in psychology. Essentially, he was the model child every parent dreamed of having. With success leading to success, it came as no shock when he was linked to the heart of Irish rugby, Leinster. Once he completed his stint at the under-20s, it was time for Caelan to move up to professional rugby. As a part of his rugby grooming, Doris was already a member of the Leinster Sub-Academy. The academy works very similar to the Sharks Academy in South Africa and the Waratahs Academy in Sydney. He was immediately thrust into the spotlight at the age of 20, making his debut for the senior Leinster side. Why was such a youngster thrust into the biggest local rugby competition in the world? Well, despite his age, Doris already stood at a whopping 6'4", weighing a mammoth 245 pounds. In fact, team photos showed that he never looked out of place once. Coincidentally, this was also the time Irish rugby was picking up. Under the leadership of Joe Schmidt, the Irish made history on many occasions. One of the biggest is perhaps the 2018 Irish home win over the All Blacks.
inside Stockdale. That chip works out. That chip works really well. Stockdale for Rollins. Jacob Stockdale.
It would mark the first time in history that Ireland beat the All Blacks in Ireland and sparked a resurgence in Irish rugby. From here, Ireland kept growing from strength to strength. Meanwhile, Doris was having a few unbelievable seasons for Leinster and had to work extremely hard to earn his way into the Irish national side. The honour was finally bestowed upon him in a Six Nations clash against Scotland.
And it's that man there in the headgear, Caelan Doris, on debut.
big impact.
Unfortunately, it only lasted 4 minutes and he was subbed after sustaining a concussion. Not the best debut, right? Well, this was just a minor blimp on his near-perfect record. He had to wait another year to wear the famous green jersey again. Bad luck continued, and Doris once again missed the 2021 Six Nations due to injury. He finally got his first full game during the Autumn Nations Tour. Doris helped Ireland overcome both Argentina and Japan, but most importantly, they once again beat the All Blacks. Caelan Doris slowly became a regular name for the Irish international side, even scoring his first try in a 2022 match against New Zealand. By the end of this year, there was no doubt that Doris was a superstar. He walked away with the IRUPA Players Player of the Year award during the Autumn Nations. But the 2023 Rugby World Cup was looming. Now, under the leadership of Andy Farrell, Doris truly came to life. After sweeping the Six Nations, earning a Grand Slam in the process, Ireland were favourites heading to Paris. Thanks to his influence, they etched out a narrow win over the Springboks in the pool stages. Ireland went unbeaten into the quarterfinals, where the old foe, New Zealand, was waiting. Despite a valiant effort, the Irish fell short, leaving the world shocked. An underpowered All Black side would narrowly defeat the Irish. Nevertheless, it didn't stem the rest of their momentum. The following year saw another victory in the Six Nations, but with legendary player and captain Johnny Sexton retiring, it was time for a new leader to step up. Among the options for Coach Farrell were names like Taj Furlong, Joshua van der Flier, and James Lowe. But Doris was announced as Irish captain for the second round of the Six Nations. He valiantly led Ireland to a win over the Azzurri, also announcing himself as a leader. His leadership continued through 2024, but once again the Irish couldn't manage to beat the All Blacks. Perhaps one of his greatest moments came when Ireland dismantled the Wallabies. Despite Australia knocking off England and Wales, Ireland stood between them and the Autumn Nations Grand Slam. After banishing Foley, the Irish sealed the game and finished their season on a high. But what is so special about Caelan Doris? If you look at some of the world's most popular players, they often have a sad background. It's like Sia Khaleesi and Peter Steph Dutoit, who recently won the World Player of the Year award, struggled to reach their success. For Doris, the path was already set with opportunities. He went to the best school, got signed to the best club, and entered the Irish scene under a highly successful coach. But players like these never really stand out. The difference between Doris and others is the fact that he is the ultimate specimen of what a loose forward should look like. Caelan can combine the ferocious tackling of Peter Steph and the groundwork of Richie McCaw. He takes hits like the legendary Schalke Burger while reading the game like Kieran Reid. After a few minutes of watching his games, he looks like the perfect loose forward. Doris also doesn't depend on only his coach. We mentioned earlier that he actually completed his university degree. Despite what people say, this indicates a superior level of intelligence. Naturally, Doris translated this to his on-field performances. Had he not been in the same era as Antoine Dupont, he probably would have been the next big thing in rugby. Moreover, a similar path taken by Doris was taken by Richie McCaw. McCaw took over the captaincy of the All Blacks in 2004. This was after a massive World Cup blunder, and the All Blacks were rebuilding. McCaw was one of the youngest players, but still had the presence for people to follow him. Doris, now Ireland's youngest ever captain, also faces the same challenges. With some of the biggest names retiring after the 2023 Rugby World Cup, Ireland now needs to rely on players like Jack Crowley and Bundy Aki. Another bit of interesting stats is that Doris now played almost 50 games in the green jersey. Over this period, he has scored 8 tries. Remarkably, every try came from a crucial situation. Whenever the Irish captain scores, they win. This is very similar to Richie McCaw. The All Black skipper was famous for those last-minute tries that won the game. The biggest question that remains is whether Doris is finally the answer to Ireland's Rugby World Cup woes. Ireland has been fortunate enough to have some of the greatest players in history. Ronan O'Gara, Brian O'Driscoll, Johnny Sexton and Gordon Darcy are a few that come to mind. Despite the wealth of talent and even being rated the best team in the world on many occasions, the Rugby World Cup remains an Achilles heel. Whenever the Irish enter the World Cup, they often start out well. Ireland tends to breeze through the group stages. Unfortunately, the quarterfinals have never treated them well. After 10 entries to the competition, Ireland has never made it past the quarters. This time, however, it seems the Irish formula has changed. No longer do coaches depend on experienced players, but offer more opportunities for youngsters. With Doris being the first of this new crop to make it, it is only a matter of time for the rest to follow. Ireland has also adopted a different style of play, relying more on their players' skill and on-field decision-making. No longer are players confined to a specific game plan. This can be seen in the United Rugby Championship, with teams like Leinster, Munster and Ulster all playing more expansive rugby. Essentially, Irish rugby has become exciting. Under the leadership of Farrell and Doris, it might be a sign of a new dynasty. A dynasty similar to that of Richie McCaw and Graham Henry. Regardless of the criticism, it seems like Ireland has finally found the answer. If they manage to win the 2025 Six Nations, it would be the first big trophy under the leadership of Caelan Doris. But what do you think? Will Doris perhaps be the next Richie McCaw or Kieran Reid? Let us know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to stay updated with the latest rugby content.